Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Isabelle Knight, and I am the middle grade fantasy author of the Enchantria series. And today I thought I would film a sort of video where I sat down and talked a bit about the 7 things I have learned as a new writer. And so I'm not sure if I technically count as a new writer because I have been writing for 2 years now. I started writing in the summer of 2023, and as you can see, it has now been quite some time since 2023. And so because of that, I thought it would be an interesting idea to do this video. So yeah. Alright, so the first thing I have learned as a young writer is that writing is meant to be hard. And I feel like this is one of those things that should technically be very much obvious, but when I first really found my passion for writing, I was just having so much fun with writing, and it was just, I was just having so much fun with it. I was creating these worlds, going on all these wild adventures with these characters. I could do anything I wanted in a story, and I just had so much fun with it, and the words just really flowed out of me. And the same was true when writing the 6th, 7th draft of book 4 in the Enchantria series. The previous drafts were torture. But when I was writing that draft, I was just having so much fun. And it is now, the finished, published draft. But anyway, I was just having so much fun with writing. And then, all of a sudden, I started, revising my work in progress, Island Keepers, which is my middle grade fantasy. And I don't know how to describe it, but basically, writing became very, very hard. I got stuck. I found so many plot holes. I found out, oh, I need to rewrite this character. I actually had to rewrite the entire book, and I'm still in the process of rewriting that and figuring out the right direction for this draft. And basically, I was just struggling so much, and I'd always just had this thought in the back of my head, if I'm struggling so much with writing, then I'm not a real writer. And I really do think that, I said it out loud once, that, if I am struggling with writing, then I'm not a real writer. And then I just sort of realized how ridiculous that was. Because, writing is meant to be hard. There's a reason only a very small percentage of people actually finish writing a book. You need to weave together all these worlds, these characters, this plot. You need to weave together so many things and make it a story. And, that is not easy. You're literally just, pouring your soul out onto the page. And, there are days when you're just stuck and you can't seem to write at all. And, writing is meant to be hard. It is not meant to be easy. And I realized that, and then realized how ridiculous that was, that I was, telling myself that I was not a real writer because I was struggling with writing. That is not at all true. I am still a real writer because I write. Writers write. To be a writer, the only thing you have to do to be a writer is to write. That is it. And so I think realizing that definitely helped me a lot. So, the second thing I have learned is to not write in a vacuum. To go out and meet new people, fellow, writers, fellow middle grade authors, and also, to not be, scared of sharing your work and meeting new people, because I certainly was when I first started out. And I quickly learned that, like, like, it's not, you should not be, like, scared of that, because, like, meeting other writers, like, they are fellow writers, like, they're literally just like you. They are struggling with plot holes, struggling with writing. They get writer's block, and honestly, I think having writing, like, friends who are writers is great, because then you can relate. You can find people who relate to you, which is great, because my writerly misery apparently loves the company of other writers' misery. But yeah, and I also think it's important to not be afraid of sharing your work and having people critique it, because ultimately, like, it will make your book, like, better. And, it's okay if you are deathly terrified of it, but that shouldn't stop you from actually, like, doing it. And if so, in my opinion, like, if, like, your ultimate goal is to get published, you are going to have to share your work with other people eventually. So you might as well, like, do it now and get feedback, and use that feedback to publish a much better book. So yeah. And I've honestly found that whenever I get feedback on my story, it's not as bad as I thought. Like, it's honestly, for me, sort of a relief, because I sort of, like, have it, like, it's over with, I've read it, now I know. I'm not, like, just sitting on the edge of my seat in anticipation, in great fear of what, like, my edit notes are gonna say. And it's honestly a relief, because now I know, like, oh, like, this is something I need to work on, and now I can, like, I know what I need to work on, and I can begin to work on that now. The third thing I have learned as a writer is that sometimes I really do just need to let the story go. And by that I mean not like letting it go, like abandoning it, but just letting it go free, let it just run wild. Of course, like, not everybody is this way. I am a pantser, not a plotter, so that means I write by the seat of my pants. I don't plot or plan. But my brain is honestly, like, the kind of brain that just really wants to plot and plan everything and just, like, control the story. But I really learned that a lot of the times, like, I really just can't control the story, and my brain is really scared of the unknown, of, like, what's going to happen, like, I need to know everything. But I think at the same time, like, whenever I do just let the story go, like, my writing is always much better, and I can just let the story be itself, and it's just free. It's not forced into this, like, frame or whatever. And a lot of the times I get ideas that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise while plotting and planning. Now, of course, you might not be like this. You might need to plot and plan your book before you start writing it, and that's fine. But this is definitely what I have learned about writing, for me at least. The fourth thing I have learned is to not be afraid to rewrite your book. And I guess this sort of is kind of related to not being afraid to have others critique your work, because I had people, like, I had beta readers who read Enchantria book 4, and they were very nice about it, and but they did, like, give me a lot of notes. There were a lot of notes from my beta readers, and, like, I read those, and I was like, it was a relief to, like, know, like, oh, this is what I need to work on. But then comes the fear of, oh no, how the heck do I work on this? What do I even do with all these notes? And one thing I've definitely been afraid of is just, like, rewriting. Like, I really just cling to the original draft, because, like, I just really, really, really want this to be, like, the final draft, and I just really don't want to start over from scratch and rewrite. And so, yeah, I'm kind of like that. But I've learned that I should, like, rewriting isn't so terrible, I guess. Like, rewriting makes your story much better, And, you know, it will be hard because it's literally rewriting. But once you rewrite your book, it's, at least in my experience, always a lot better than the original draft was, and you'll be publishing a much better book. And also, like, I don't know, like, it depends on the story, I guess. But when I, like, rewrote Enchantria book 4, like, I kept trying to keep to the original draft, like, keep to this original direction. But I was struggling with writing so much, the story did not want to go in that direction at all. And so I decided to rewrite. I got this new idea for how the story could go, and I rewrote, and actually rewriting was much, much easier because, you know, that direction was true to the story. And so, yeah, so I think rewriting is definitely something that writers should not be deathly terrified of. The 5th thing I have learned as a writer is that you do not need to write every single day to be a writer. Like, you know, writing every single day is, you know, really good. I think if you can do that, it builds, like, discipline, and it helps you, like, get yourself in the chair, drag yourself to the desk, start typing out words. But, you know, like, I know that a lot of writers just can't write every single day because, you know, we have life, we have school, we have friends and family who we can't ignore and who would be absolutely furious at us if we did just ignore them and sat in the dark typing at our laptop all day. And so, while I do think it is, like, important to, like, write every day, like, you know, if you can do that, great. But also, if that really does not work for you, and if you really cannot find the time to do that, then it's important to, like, not beat yourself up over it. Because I used to beat myself up over that, and I just kept putting all this pressure on myself. And, you know, that is what it does. Like, it puts a lot of pressure on you. And if you just keep, like, beating yourself up about it, I oftentimes find that when I try to write the next day, I just carry so much pressure, so much stress that I just really do not want to write. And so I think it is important to, like, you know, like, not beat yourself up for not writing every day. And there are actually writers who don't write every day. Like, I think there's this one author tuber, I think her name is Abby Emmons, and I think she mentioned in a video that she doesn't write every day, but she sets aside, like, some time, like, on a day when she can write, to, you know, write instead of just writing every day. I think that author tuber was Abby Emmons. I will link her channel down below. But yeah, I saw a video of hers, and that is what she said. So there are writers who don't write every single day. Alright, and this is, I think, the last thing on the list. And that is that, what was it? Ah yes, all writing advice is subjective. And I learned this the hard way. Because, like, I was in, like, a writing community, an online writing community. And this writing community was very focused on, like, plotting and planning and story structure. And so there were a lot of, like, what felt like rules, I guess. Like, there are really no writing rules, but it certainly felt like there were. And one time I actually, like, okay, so, basically, in this writing community, there was one person who told me that because I write middle grade, my main character cannot be 16. Elena Ramirez from Enchantria, she's the main character, she is 16 years old. But the book is still middle grade because, you know, it has a very middle grade feel to it. The lens through which the world is viewed is very middle grade. It's not at all young adult. But basically, this person said that I can't have a 16-year-old main character when I'm writing middle grade. And like I actually looked it up and I sort of went down a rabbit hole of writing rules for middle grade, and I really wish I had not looked that up, because there were lots of people saying stuff like your book must be less than 50,000 words. Middle grade must be short. You cannot have a long middle grade book. And as I started like looking up all of these rules, like writing all of a sudden just felt very just full of stress and pressure, like I mentioned previously, and that just really made me not want to write. And the thing I loved about writing was how much freedom there was in it, how much creative freedom there was. Like, you could do anything in writing, but all of a sudden, now that I knew about all of these rules, like, I just felt like, like I could not be, like, creative there. Like, I had to follow all of these rules, like, write for the market or whatever, and that really did kill my joy of writing. And then, like, a fellow middle grade author, like, I talked to her, and she told me that, like, all writing advice is subjective. And, you really have to find, you have to figure out which writing advice works for you and will make your book better, and you have to learn to ignore the rest. And it's much easier said than done. Believe me, I know. And, she also asked me if, the people in the writing community were trying to get published, or if they were trying to just support each other as writers and support each other's writing. And I sort of did realize that, this writing community is very focused on, getting published, I think. And while that's not a bad thing, if you want to get published, then, yeah, it's not a completely bad thing. But it just, I honestly don't know how to really say this well, but I honestly write for me. I want to write books that I enjoy and, publish them for other people to read, and, if other people enjoy reading them, then that's great. But honestly, this writing community felt very much focused on writing for the market, writing to publish, writing for the industry, which is something I have always not been a fan of. The last time I tried doing it, I honestly nearly gave up on, writing. I kid you not, I was literally in tears as I was emailing another middle grade author, the one who told me that I needed to ignore the writing advice that didn't work for me. And I feel like I have had to learn this the hard way, and, all writing advice is subjective. Not all writing advice will work for you and your book, and, you should experiment to find out what works for you and what doesn't. And if something doesn't work for you, then you do not need to follow that writing advice. But yeah, I think those are probably all of the things, those are probably all of the things that I have learned as a writer. I mean, it's not all of the things because I have learned a lot, but it's all of the things I will be covering in this video today. And if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and also feel free to comment down below on, how long you've been writing and what are some of the things you have learned as a writer. So yeah, I've probably rambled on enough, and I think it is high time for me to stop avoiding my work in progress and finally get back to writing it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for coming, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, bye!